Here's the thing. Birds are real, and it's mean to say that they are not. Podcast time once again. I know you probably clicked on this expecting to hear maybe a very famous song. I'm trying out this new marketing thing called clickbait, where our most successful episodes this season have been ones that are named after famous songs or bands. So trying that out again, seeing what happens.
Cool. This is interesting because I don't know what we're talking about today, but I guess we can twist it into a popular song. So
Exactly. So if you were here hoping to hear that song, stay. Wait, just stay. We're going to play it later, I promise. Definitely stay for like an hour. We'll play it at the end, but you have to listen to the whole thing. For those of you who don't know, this is the Birds Are Real podcast, a podcast where we do believe that birds are real.
And that it's mean to say that they're not.
Exactly.
Because people are saying that, and it's not okay.
It's not okay, because they're real. We like them a lot.
Been an eventful time since we last recorded. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we've done a couple of birding excursions. Some typical and one atypical. So.
Yeah, let's start out with the fancy stuff. We went to Forsyth Wildlife Refuge in
Edwin B. Forsyth.
All right, okay.
And let me tell you something. Edwin Doobie Forsyth.
Yeah, it's all the way in Galloway, New Jersey. Took us 1 hour driving in a Honda Fit to get there.
1 hour 7 minutes.
1 hour 7 minutes, and we had to stop by. We had to stop for gas because one time. Did you know that diesel is not? It's technically flammable. It's considered like combustible because you can't take a lighter and expect it to light on fire. Its flash point is just too high. But if you do it with gasoline, it will light on fire. Just something to think about.
Yeah, Keish told me this in the car, except for all he said was, diesel isn't flammable. And I said, what do you mean diesel's not flammable? My man just lied, trying to aura farm with his diesel fun facts.
Yeah, technically flammable, but not in the way that you think. Not as readily flammable as gasoline. So do with that information what you will. Mm-hmm. And what were we talking about?
Edwin B. Forsyth.
Edwin B. Forsyth.
So we went because it's a historically great place for shorebirds. I've been twice before. I went last year, but this was Keisha's first time.
Yep, my first time at Edwin B. Forsyth. I'm just going to call it Forsyth.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we gave Edwin his props.
That's true.
I don't know, maybe he was a bad guy, but he had a wildlife refuge. Seems like he was probably a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it works is you go there, you pay a small fee. It's not actually like monitored, so it's kind of on the honor system. We did pay the fee because we're upstanding, fantastic people. Mm-hmm. And then it's an 8-mile loop. You drive in your car, similar to if you heard us talk about Bombay Hook last season. You drive in your car and you can just pull over to the side, stop, get out, take pictures anytime you want. The speed limit's like 10 miles an hour, so you're just going real slow. And right to either side of you is kind of swampy, marshy, and at times full-on like pond, lake, beach. I don't know.
A cool variety of different habitats. There was a lot of the info signs were talking about how cool it was that there was a saltwater marsh. Mm-hmm. We did not see a seaside sparrow, which we were hearing it.
You didn't.
Sam saying he saw it, he didn't see it.
I saw a sparrow and it was by the sea. So
yeah, in that case it was a seaside sparrow, but it was just a song sparrow, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of cool habitats: saltwater marsh, maritime forest, just mud flat, general marsh, and yeah, I think we were able to see a cool selection of birds because of that.
We saw a lot. We ended up getting, I think I ended up with 7 lifers.
And I think I got like 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really great. We started out immediately with maybe the coolest bird that we saw, which was the black-necked stilt. That
was probably my favorite bird of the day, and we saw it at like 6:40 in the morning or something, something like super early. Very elegant bird. Mm-hmm. It's a shorebird. It's got these long pink legs and then black and white feathers.
Kind of a cool, like, almost looks like it's wearing a mask, like in The Incredibles.
Yeah, kind of. And we saw 3 of them, and they were just doing their thing. I think I got a cool video of them. We're trying out video.
Yeah, we're trying out video. Let us know how you feel. Keish has gotten some good videos. I've gotten crap videos, so we're not going to be posting those ones.
Yeah, and we should just get a tripod because we're trying to handhold videos and it's very difficult with our like 10-pound camera setups.
I do have a tripod, I just don't know where it is, but I'll find it.
Yeah, so be on the lookout on our Instagram, Birds Are Real Pod, or our individual accounts, which you'll find on that account's bio, for some cool bird videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the black-necked stilt, that was lifer for me. Sam's already seen it.
I saw it once last year at Forsyth, very far away, so it was really great to see them close up.
Mm-hmm. And Sam almost missed it, sounds like, from what you told me, the black-necked stilt.
Last year?
Last year.
Yeah, well, so I was looking, and I was taking pictures of some snowy egrets, which is a pretty common bird, but I liked them. I was focused on them. And this guy came up to me, taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, "Hey, you want to see something that's actually cool? Look over there. There's a black-necked stilt." I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." And it was cool because he showed me a lifer, but I don't know. Why can't I enjoy an egret, you know?
That's true. He kind of did throw some shade on the egret there. But hey, he showed you the stilt, which is...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's cooler, but it's cool.
It's cool. But I saw it more this time, so now I can kind of like pretend like that didn't happen before.
Yeah. The other birds that I had as lifers were the short-billed dowager, which I think was lifer for both of us.
Me. Yep.
The willet, which was a lifer for me, but not for Sam.
I actually checked. I had not put it in Merlin before, so technically not a lifer, but Merlin-wise, it is a lifer.
Nice. Sam kind of sniped some American oyster catchers in the distance.
Yeah, those were very cool. Like bright orange bill. Mm-hmm. Great, we saw them. We were talking on the way and like, oh, we might see some oyster catchers. That'd be really cool, and we did. So
yeah,
shout out me.
Shout out Sam. Shout out last episode where we talked about doing your homework before you go to a place, especially going to a new place like we did.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we make it worthwhile. So we had a couple of birds in our head that we hadn't seen before that we wanted to see. The black-necked stilt was one for me. American oyster catcher we discussed in the car ride over and we saw it. Mm-hmm. We might have not seen it if we didn't like talk about it before.
It's true.
Yeah, it was like in our mind. And another bird that was in our mind was the whimbrel.
The whimbrel, which a very cool looking bird, kind of almost like a curlew with its bill that kind of droops.
Yeah, not as droopy as a curlew.
Not quite as droopy, but
definite some droopage there.
Yeah, and so Quiche was like, "Man, I really wish we would see a whimbrel." And the second he said the word whimbrel, 4 of them flew overhead.
I was looking at some people's eBirds checklists, and we were coming towards the end of the loop, the driving loop there. And I was like, hey, some people are saying they saw like 30 whimbrels mostly flying over. And as soon as I said that, we saw like a bunch of whimbrels flying over. It was really cool.
And those were the only ones we saw all day. So
yeah,
very interesting timing there.
Yeah. And then we saw the purple martin.
The purple martin was cool. That was, I posted on our Instagram, easiest lifer of our lives, because there were about 60 martin houses just posted up right in front of the visitor center. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? They were filled with martins. Purple martins, to be exact.
Purple martin, not just a nickname you had for your friend Martin. It's actually a type of bird.
That's so true. Shout out my friend Martin, who is purple.
Yeah, and they do have this like pretty cool purple sheen on them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, easiest lifer of our lives, but we'll take it.
One other lifer that I saw was a pectoral sandpiper. It's one that I think you've seen before. But
I had seen it before through with some other birders through a scope very far away.
Nice, yeah. So that was cool to see. But then we were leaving, and we just weren't quite done yet, I think.
Yeah, we're not satisfied with our 6 to 7 lifers that we already saw. We just needed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. So you started checking eBird just to see any hotspots that were nearby.
On our way back.
Our way back. And we ended up going to, what was it? Estelle Manor Park?
Estelle Manor Park in New Jersey, yeah.
In New Jersey. And it was cool. We got there, and it was a park. It wasn't like a wildlife refuge. It was like, there's a playground, there's a soccer field.
Yeah, kids were like swinging on swing sets and stuff. It was like just a park.
Yeah, and some woods.
Yeah.
So we kind of... This is one of the weirder things about having our giant camera set up is when we go somewhere that's not strictly like a wildlife refuge and there aren't a million people out taking pictures, we're then like walking through a public park with gigantic cameras, and that's a little weird.
I'm sure no one actually thinks it's weird, but we sometimes feel like it's a little strange. But Got to do what you got to do to get these lifers. And we got 2 more lifers there.
We did. We found a couple warblers. One of them, the pine warbler, which is around. It was we'd heard it, I think, at John Hines, but hadn't really seen it necessarily.
Yeah, it was a frustrating bird for me because when I went to John Hines alone on Friday morning, and I heard it a bunch, I couldn't see it for the life of me, so I was kind of irritated. But then we saw it the next day when we went to Estelle Manor Park, and then we saw the yellow-throated warbler.
Yeah, which this was almost a celebrity bird, I think, at John Hines the last couple weeks.
Yeah, people were posting about it in the rare bird alert. Seems like the metric for the rare bird alert is being seen less than 5 times a year in that region or that location. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the yellow-throated warbler, it's a rare visitor for John Hines, but we were an hour away, and it seems like it's common there.
It's pretty common. There were at least 2 of them flying around, maybe more, and we were actually able to track it down mostly by sound.
Yeah, it was very cool.
We could hear the sound. It's a pretty distinctive call, and we were really lucked out. It was very high up in the air, but it does have, as the name might suggest, a really distinctive yellow throat. So we did see it. Didn't get any great pictures, so don't expect anything on the Instagram. But
yeah, like Sam said, it was really high up, but we definitely got photos enough to ID it, and we heard its very distinct call as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you were mentioning your goal of hitting 200 lifers. If we're getting 8 lifers a day, then we'll hit that in no time.
Yeah, let me give a lifer update here. I believe I'm currently at 156. So, and potentially another on the way. We've asked our bird Discord to ID a specific gull for us that we couldn't quite ID, so maybe another lifer.
Yeah, we're hoping it's a lesser black-backed gull. Could just be a herring gull with a muddy beak.
Yeah.
We're not sure.
It was very muddy there.
Yeah, I have a similar number on my life list. I have to go through the exact count. I think like maybe 10 to 15 of them are not legitimate because I was using Merlin before I was an actual birder, and I would just add things to my life list that I had heard and not seen. So,
and Merlin sometimes does give you incorrect information about birds you hear.
It really does, which did come up on our trip.
We were walking through the woods, and you pulled up your Merlin, and it was like, oh my god, we just heard a short-eared owl. But then we listened back to the recording, and it was actually just our footsteps.
Yeah, the cool thing about Merlin is you can save the recording, and then you can listen back to it and see what Merlin was referring to as the call or the sound. And we definitely couldn't hear anything remotely close to a short-eared owl call. It was probably just our footsteps as we were walking. Mm-hmm. But it was a funny coincidence because, like I said, we did our homework and we knew there was a short-eared owl sighted like 2 to 3 days ago at Forsyth. So we were on the lookout for that, of course. Mm-hmm. And then when Merlin picked up a short-eared owl call, we were really excited to find it. But then we listened back to the recording and it's just definitely not.
No, not at all. But I'd say a very good weekend there.
Yeah.
Next weekend, I don't know if we're going to be able to bird quite as much. I'm running in a 5K.
A whole 5K?
A whole 5K. 5,000 miles.
I don't think that's accurate, but...
We'll agree to disagree there.
All right.
But it's actually at the Philadelphia Zoo. And I think I might see some good birds there. Flamingos, I'm pretty sure, are there. I think they might have a hornbill. I don't know.
Oh, hornbill. Yeah. Those are like Southeast Asia, no?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I should put them on my life list or not.
Well, it leads into one of our Hoot topics really well.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for sending in the Hoot topics. We did get a good number of them.
We did, yeah.
Doesn't mean you should stop sending them in.
No, please continue. We'll probably also put a poll on our Instagram sometime this week. So if you're adverse to emailing, you'd prefer to just reply to an Instagram poll, we'll put that up there and you can submit any question you want, even if it's not bird related. And if you do, you'll be entered for a chance to win a sticker. The stickers are in development. We've got some good sticker ideas, so just keep an eye out for that.
Nice, good incentives for the people. The first Hoot topic that we have is from Ethan, and he asks, do you count seeing new birds if you see them at a zoo or a sanctuary or something of the like? Or does it only count if you see them in their natural habitat? Wild scenario. The lilac-breasted roller, for some reason, is rescued in Philly, and they place it in a sanctuary or area or somewhere for it to roam. You go and see it. Would you check it off, or would you add it to your life list as being seen, or is it just one of those that, yeah, it's cool and awesome, but I can't check it off the life list? Has a scenario like this happened to you guys before?
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to start by saying we are not the authorities on your life list. You can do what you want with your life list. It's not an official metric. You don't get paid if you have a big life list. It's more so just for your own reference.
Yeah, like I said, when I first got the Merlin app, I was happy to add birds that I had heard and confirmed hearing in Merlin to my life list. And I think that was fine at the time. But, now I think my goals have changed, and now I actually want to see them. So, yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. If you want to count a bird you saw in a zoo or a sanctuary, go for it. I think, well, I don't want to speak for you, but personally for me, I don't think I would. Maybe more sanctuary than zoo. I don't really vibe with zoos that much. I think I would be more inclined to add something if I saw it in a sanctuary, but I still don't think I think I would want to see the bird in its natural habitat.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of I use the life list to keep track of birds that I've seen in the wild. So I've been to some sanctuaries. I've seen peregrine falcons there. I went to this rapture sanctuary in New Jersey a couple of years back, and they had a lot of rehabbing raptors. Mm-hmm. So I saw a bunch of owls. I saw a bunch of falcons, peregrine falcon being one of them. But my goal is still to see one out in the wild. Seeing it in the sanctuary was awesome, but it didn't satisfy that goal for me.
Yeah, I hear that.
Because of that, I have kept it off of my life list, and I hope to see it in the wild. But again, you can do it either way. Sometimes it's nice if you want to keep track of all the kind of wild and wacky things you've seen that you might not normally see in your area. That can be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I remember you years back going to that raptor rehabilitation center or that sanctuary. I would definitely like to go to something like that just to have a closer encounter with those birds, such as owls, which, ethics of birding, we don't really want to we want to maintain our distance even if we see them in the wild.
Yep.
But I think that would be a cool way to experience those birds in a closer sense as they're being cared for. But I still don't think I would add them to my life list.
Yeah. But again, it's just kind of what you want to do. Yeah, you could add them if you see it on TV if you want. No one's gonna prosecute.
Yeah, just buy a Sibley bird guide and flip through all the pages. You've seen every bird. Yeah. No, jokes aside, it's a good question from Ethan. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you want to go into our next question?
Yes, our next question is from Sumi, who
I think first time Hoot topic submitter.
Nice.
So
thank you. There were a lot of good questions in this email. We're just going to choose one for this episode, but we'll probably come back to it. If there was a game of Survivor for birds, which bird would win? Survivor, we're talking about the hit CBS TV show, game show Survivor.
Produced by, and hosted by Jeff Probst.
It's been on the air for 25 years. If you don't know what we're talking about, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Even if you didn't watch it, you know of the show.
Yeah. But we're pretty big Survivor fans.
We are pretty big Survivor fans, and I think Sumi's also a big Survivor fan, so...
Yeah. It's not as simple as the question may seem, right? Because you might think Survivor, just the top of the food chain is going to win, right? Mm-hmm. But rarely does that happen in Survivor.
Very rarely, actually. Mm-hmm. The name of the game is outwit, outplay, outlast.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot goes into it, including, if you've never watched Survivor, the way you win is that the other people that you played with, who you got voted out throughout the entire season, then vote on the winner at the end. So you can't really make too many enemies, but you also have to be eliminating people. So it's a very fine line to walk.
Yeah, so there's definitely a social component, right? There's a strategic component because of the people you want to keep, the people you want to get rid of, and there's a physical component because you win immunity by winning certain physical challenges. Mm-hmm. So you kind of need a good blend of both, not necessarily in an equal sense. All-arounders also sometimes don't do super well in Survivor. You kind of have to sometimes have your secret weapon.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of times these days it's the strategic and social players that tend to dominate Although this season we're seeing a little bit of a difference, but
No spoilers, though.
no spoilers. In my opinion, what I think you need to survive in Survivor to win is a good alliance. You really need someone you can trust, which is hard to come by because you're playing a game where everyone is lying to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of birds that seem to really trust other birds. And the one that comes to mind is one that every time we see it, we don't see one, we see two. There are always two mallards together. I've never seen a mallard by itself. I always see a mallard with another mallard. So I think I would go for the mallard because it's kind of unassuming. You're not going to vote out the mallard at the beginning of the game because you're not thinking that a mallard is a threat, right? It's just a mallard. But it's got a really tight alliance with another mallard. And for a duck, it's on the bigger side. I think physically it could actually do pretty well. It can swim and fly, which, some of these birds aren't going to be able to swim. Some can't fly quite as fast. They can fly pretty fast, those mallards. And socially, I feel like you normally see mallards kind of hanging out with other birds, no problem. I see them around geese all the time. I see them around other ducks. We've seen them at John Hines recently in the mudflats walking around with the rusty blackbirds and the Wilson snipes. And no one seems to have a problem with the mallard. So I think a mallard would go under the radar. It has a really strong bond alliance. It would have a pretty good social game and an underrated physical game. I think the mallard's winning.
That's a great pitch.
Yeah.
I can't even argue with any of that. Yeah, the mallard, not the bird that came to mind, but maybe that's kind of the point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not going to get voted out as a super big threat early on, like you said. And yeah, a bigger duck than you would think compared to like other ducks, like a bufflehead or a ruddy duck or something. Right. Cool. So for my pick, I'm going to go with the Arctic tern.
The Arctic tern, nice.
A bird we've talked about in season 1, namely for its very long migration pattern.
The longest, in fact.
The longest. So I think in terms of Survivor, a lot of players get bogged down into like a short-term game mentality. Mm-hmm. They get into fights. They think short-term, but they don't think about the long game.
Right.
And the Arctic tern is thinking about the long game.
It has to map it all out.
Exactly. It knows what it's going to do for the next several months ahead of time, and it sticks to it.
Right.
Flying for that long, and for that, it takes some resilience. Mm-hmm. So maybe a gust of wind knocks it off course for a little bit. Maybe it's raining or something. The Arctic tern is resilient. It's going to keep persevering.
Yeah, it is going to stick to its game plan. I like that because I feel like what we've seen a lot recently is that people keep trying to make big moves and they're doing it way too early. They're playing too hard too fast, and they don't have the long game. So.
Yeah, and doing a big move too early, if it doesn't work out, you're cooked. If it does work out, then people are going to see you as a huge threat moving forward. Mm-hmm. So, and the Arctic tern, it's also a very strategic bird, because if you remember, it doesn't take the shortest path on its migration. Mm-hmm. It takes a bit of a longer route, but it saves energy in the long term because it's making use of some gusts or like currents, I guess. Yeah, it's making use of some currents, and it's not flying into headwinds, stuff like that. So strategic in that way. It's built for the long game. I think it has that in mind, and I think that's an underrated skill. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's a great point. So those are our 2 finalists. Survivor normally has 3 finalists, so let's just think of a third, a goat that they go up against. Normally, goat is used in a good sense these days. In Survivor, a goat is not a good thing to be.
Yeah, a goat is a player that either 1 or 2 other players take to the end because they have no chance of winning, so they're kind of just like a free slot that no one's going to vote for. So what would be a good Survivor bird goat?
Probably the European starling, right? We've already established that it's a scapegoat.
That's fair. I was thinking along the lines of like birds that other birds don't like. Mm-hmm. European starling, brown-headed cowbird, brood parasite, and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, something along those lines for sure.
So we'll put the poll up on Instagram, and you all can be the jury, decide who wins Survivor.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sumi, for that hoot topic. I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great one.
And again, if you want to send in your very own hoot topic, you can email us at birdsarereal.pod@gmail.com. Message us on Instagram at birdsarerealpod. Or like I said, we're going to put out a story where you can just reply to the story with your hoot topic suggestion.
All right, Sam. I'm excited for this. Excited for this main topic. What do you got?
It's going to be very related to the title, of course, of this episode. So we've talked quite extensively recently about using mnemonic devices to recognize bird calls, right? Like, who cooks for you is...
The barred owl.
The barred owl. Peter, Peter is...
Tufted titmouse.
Yep. Quack.
Duck.
Mallard.
Mallard duck.
Yeah, specifically. But when we talk about like these phrases that we use, we're normally talking about the same few types of birds. You know, throw the chickadees in there, white-crowned sparrows. We talked about this
white-throated sparrows.
White-throated sparrows. We talked about this all last episode.
Yeah.
So I think it's time that we expand our repertoires.
Okay.
So I'm going to do that today.
Sounds good.
Here's another mnemonic device. You may actually already be aware of it, but I'm going to throw it on the fire there. Ready? Meep meep.
Meep meep. Oh. Roadrunner.
Yeah, this isn't a bird that we would see at John Hines. It's not a bird that we'd see in the Northeast at all. It's not a bird that would be swimming. It's not a bird that we'd really see flying too often. It is a bird that we would see running down the road. You're right. It's the greater roadrunner. Roadrunners are a bit of a mystery, at least like here on the East Coast, right? So I feel like most of what we know is from the cartoon, at least what I know is from the cartoon. The Meep Meep is, of course, famously said by the Roadrunner in the Looney Tunes cartoons, but that's not actually what real Roadrunners sound like, if you can believe it.
No, I thought Looney Tunes back then was being very biologically accurate with their meepy meepy call.
No, but they actually make a call that's pretty similar to a bird that we do hear quite often. If you had to guess which bird the greater roadrunner sounds like, which would you guess? You're not going to guess it. Okay,
yeah. I was going to say, like you said, I don't really have a frame of reference because roadrunner is not really a bird that's in mind too often for me.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to be a little tricky, right? So I'm gonna try to pick a bird that I would never guess that the roadrunner sounds like.
Okay.
And that's gonna be the osprey.
Well, that's a good guess, honestly. But no, they actually sound very similar to our good friend the mourning dove.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, kind of a surprisingly gentle cooing. I'll play the call now.
Yeah, that is kind of similar to the mourning dove.
Yeah, right. It kind of sounds like if a mourning dove drank an entire six-pack by itself and was now trying to convince his friend that he's totally sober and should definitely call his ex right now. He's like, coo, coo, coo.
Yeah, you're right. It was kind of like falling at the end there. Yeah.
But so roadrunners, they sound like that not because they're closely related to doves or pigeons, but actually because they're members of the cuckoo family.
Oh, really?
Are so named because they coo. That was kind of surprising to me. Like, I always thought of roadrunners as kind of their own thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're like a cool, distant, like, loner. I thought they were cowboys, I guess. But no, they are cuckoos. Or cuckoos. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but yeah. I change it every time I say it. So don't call me out in the comments. I'm doing my best here. That isn't to say that roadrunners are part of like a super common family of birds, because cuckoos are still pretty rare, at least where we are. I think the only cuckoo that we could maybe expect to see is the yellow-billed cuckoo, but I've never seen one.
Yeah, I honestly don't have much cuckoo knowledge. I know there's the common cuckoo, and they're also brood parasites, right? Cuckoos?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, don't know much.
Yeah. Well, the roadrunner is pretty different from like the rest of the cuckoos, which are pretty well flighted birds. You normally see them in trees and stuff.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Obviously, roadrunner probably gets the same. And the cartoon gets the idea because they run on the ground.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that.
Okay,
but
cool.
It's interesting that you mentioned the cartoon because we can see a bit of a dilemma forming right now, right? Looney Tunes lied to us. Roadrunners don't actually make a sound like a car horn. They make a sound like a cuckoo.
Next thing you're going to tell me is they don't paint hyper-realistic paintings of like a continuing road on like on a rock.
Right, well, so this is the question. If they lied to us about the Roadrunner call, what else did they lie to us about? Do they paint tunnels on the sides of cliffs and trick their enemies into running headfirst into them? Are they actually blue and purple? Can a Roadrunner even pick up an anvil?
I don't know. You tell me.
All right, well, let's start with an easy one. We're going to start with appearance. Roadrunners are not blue and purple, but otherwise the cartoon version is not all that far off. In terms of their silhouette, they are lanky. They got long necks. They got a big old crest on their head. And they do have a really long, almost kind of bushy tail. They do have really long legs. Looney Tunes actually got the direction of the knees correct, which a lot of cartoon anthropomorphic birds don't have. Normally they'll depict, like, especially if the bird is anthropomorphic, they'll give it knees that bend the same way that our knees bend, but most bird knees bend backwards. And the Looney Tunes Roadrunner does have that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They're paying attention. And I didn't realize, I'm looking at a photo right now, I didn't realize that their legs were so long. For some reason, I pictured them having like stubby little legs.
No.
Which I guess wouldn't make sense if they're good runners.
Yeah, well, they have long legs. And yeah, in terms of coloration, they aren't this bright blue and purple like I mentioned. They are desert dwellers. They live in Texas, Mexico, southern New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And they've actually also started expanding further east a little bit into as far as Louisiana and Missouri, but mostly they're in the desert. And they exist in this interesting space between predator and prey. So they don't really want to stand out color-wise.
Right. Blending in with the desert sand and dunes and whatnot.
Exactly. They have this mostly earthy, neutral tones, browns, grays, some dark speckling, stripes kind of, but they do have a pretty noticeable crest, like I mentioned.
Makes them seem kind of dinosaur-like.
Exactly. It does make them look, very raptor-y. And that crest kind of goes up and down. They'll flare it if they need to, impress a mate, but also if they want to intimidate something, they can flare it up and down. And they do have this one other thing that's kind of a noticeable feature, and that's that their skin right around their eyes is bare. No plumage on top of it, no feathering. And they kind of have just like this strip of skin that's bare, and the skin is actually colored and patterned like the French flag, where there's kind of vertical stripes of blue, white, and red.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's like the Pepsi logo kind of, or I don't know, I thought of Crest toothpaste. There's that toothpaste that has like the blue, white, and red in it.
Yeah, it does kind of look like that.
Yeah, I don't know. If you could have any flags, colors, and pattern right next to your eyes, which would you choose?
That's a good question.
I think I'd go with the whales because it has
huge,
like a dragon.
Oh, that's it. That's a good answer. They do have a whole dragon on their flag.
Yeah.
I might go with Bahrain's flag.
I don't think so.
Look at Bahrain's flag right now. It's red and white, and it's got this like zigzag going down. I just think that would look cool.
Oh, that is cool. I feel like that's attainable too. I don't think I could apply makeup in a way that would give me a convincing dragon, but I feel like you could get the Bahrain flag on there pretty well.
Yeah, let us know what flag you would like as like eyeshadow or whatever.
Yeah. But so this French flag skin kind of serves the same purpose as what we would think of as typical breeding plumage, where the color actually becomes more saturated and pronounced during breeding season.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But and you said it's not feathers, it's just their skin.
It's just their skin. Huh. Yeah.
Okay.
So the pigment gets more intense during breeding season to try and attract mates. But so it's a nice way to kind of show off without putting yourself in danger as prey and without spooking off your prey as a predator.
That's cool.
Yeah. I should mention, by the way, that a lot of my research came from All About Birds, like it typically does. But I also used this other bird content creator's video. The video was called The Greater Roadrunner Secrets Revealed by Badgerland Birding on YouTube. I do recommend checking him out. He does already have 50,000 subscribers, though, and doesn't know that we exist. So no more free publicity. I'm just citing my sources appropriately.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't hurt if you guys spammed one of his videos with "birds are real, pod is better" or something. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. But speaking of the Roadrunner's eyes, though, they do this thing that we would normally only see in seabirds, which is kind of interesting, where their tear ducts secrete these especially salty tears that helps keep their eyes wet in the dry desert. It uses less internal moisture than a typical bird would.
Right, because they have to conserve.
And that's important because, like you said, desert living is hard. Water can be pretty tricky to come by. Do you know where roadrunners might get most of their water intake from?
Good question. I feel like a lot of animals get it from eating other prey.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the water content in another living being. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's like puddles or something it might drink out of that, but I feel like from its prey it probably is where it gets most of its water.
Yeah, you're right. Like roadrunners don't really eat seeds or berries or things that we might associate with smaller birds.
Mm-hmm.
Like a roadrunner is actually about 2 feet from tip of the tail to top of the beak, so it's pretty long.
Yeah,
like half of that is tail.
Okay.
So they're pretty like diminutive, but just kind of long. But they're hunters. They eat other animals. Although for some reason they're not considered birds of prey. I don't really understand why. I didn't look too far into it. I think that's a topic for another episode, but you don't count them as raptors or birds of prey.
Interesting. Yeah. Don't know. Oh, I was thinking like it's only a bird of prey if it eats another bird, but that's not true.
And roadrunners do eat other birds too.
Oh, they do?
They will. Yeah, roadrunners, they'll eat the typical prey you might associate with birds that hunt, so rodents, smaller birds if they're available.
I was thinking since they're in the desert, like lizards or...
Yeah, exactly. They're big reptile fans, so they eat lots of lizards, which is not something that a lot of other birds will do.
Right.
And they can even eat poisonous ones, because much like the dread pirate Roberts in The Princess Bride, they've developed an immunity to all sorts of toxins and poisons, even scorpions.
Wow, that's cool.
The only thing that they are really careful about eating is like a horned lizard. They have to make sure that they eat the horns the right way so they don't get pierced in like their internal organs, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you're right. They do get most of their water intake from their prey, which a lot of predator animals do, especially ones that exist in kind of this weird space between predator and prey. Cats are a good example. I used to work at a cat vet, so I have all this cat knowledge kind of built up. But cats in the wild, they are predators, but they're also in danger of being predated upon, right? So they don't really go to like the watering hole and take a leisurely sip of water. They try to get all of their water from the food that they eat. So PSA to cat owners, if you have your food bowl out and your water bowl out, cats probably aren't drinking enough water from the water bowl alone. So I would recommend adding a little bit of water to their food. It works pretty well. Anyway.
Heard it here first from the cat vet.
Yeah. That's my soapbox. I'll get off. But roadrunners do, of course, have a mortal enemy, right? One that they're destined to spar with for all eternity. Could you please tell me what that mortal enemy is?
I'm thinking it's the coyote.
What? Did you say rattlesnakes?
Oh,
Yeah, don't worry. No, we're getting to coyotes soon.
I've been misled.
But the most common battle you'll actually probably see out in the desert involving a roadrunner is between the roadrunner and a rattlesnake. So while roadrunners are obviously quite fast, they can't really just brute force a rattlesnake because rattlesnakes, snakes in general, are very quick. So the roadrunner has to be cunning. And this is where we see another similarity between our real roadrunners and the cartoon version. They have to outthink their opponents sometimes, right? Cartoon roadrunner always kind of laying traps, springing traps, like outthinking the coyote, right? Real roadrunners might not actually paint fake roads on the side of rocks, but they do have a pretty ingenious strategy for dealing with rattlesnakes. Did you watch Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide growing up?
Of course.
Okay. Do you remember what the best strategy is for playing dodgeball?
Yeah. I don't. Oh, wow, this is a throwback. I don't remember what the technique was called, but you throw a ball in the air to distract them, so they look up to catch it.
Yep.
And then you drill them with the fastball into,
Exactly.
And then you drill them with the fastball.
Yeah.
And get them out.
Yeah, you normally have one of your teammates throw the ball up softly, and then while the opponent is looking up at that, you drill them with a fastball. Exactly. We played on an intramural dodgeball team in college once. Yeah. I think we tried that technique.
I think it was Mongoose Cafe.
Mongoose Cafe was the name of the team. Great team name.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I don't think using that technique worked. I'm pretty sure the varsity softball team wiped the floor with us.
Something like that. I don't really like to think about it, but something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't our best showing. It was our best team name, though. Roadrunners will utilize a similar technique where they'll actually attack a rattlesnake in pairs.
Oh.
Yeah. The first roadrunner will jump up and down, make lots of noise, flap its wings, and draw the snake's attention. Roadrunners can fly, by the way. They aren't flightless. I feel like people kind of associate them with flightlessness because the cartoon bird doesn't really fly.
Right.
And also their name is literally Roadrunner. They can fly. They just kind of prefer not to most of the time. They're not the best flyers.
I was gonna say they like soar or like other birds, or
they can just like kind of shorter distances. They mostly use it to get up onto perches. They nest off of the ground.
Okay, gotcha.
And just sort of go from perch to perch or to distract a rattlesnake. So while the first one is doing this, kind of our big arcing softball, right? The second roadrunner is going to sneak up from behind and strike. And then the two will share a lovely meal together.
A rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm. And this is kind of typical of roadrunners. They work well in pairs. Breeding pairs will normally mate for life in the sense that like they'll meet during mating season, have some children, disperse for the rest of the year, but then come back together next year. And they'll also patrol together. They'll sort of circle around their territory, which is normally like half a mile in diameter, to search for potential dangers. And kind of like they're like sentries on sentry duty, you know, they'll kind of go in circles. I don't know, I think that's pretty hardcore. If I saw some roadrunners strutting around in a circle, I'd back off. That would get me.
I agree. I feel like seeing a roadrunner just strutting around with purpose would definitely give me pause.
Yeah. We do need to step back, though, and address the coyote in the room, right? I'll tell you, this is where the moral efficacy of the cartoon takes its biggest hit. So roadrunners are fast, right? They can run it up to 26 miles per hour, and that's fast. That's faster than I think any human has ever run. Maybe Usain Bolt's faster, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he may have... I think it's close
Mm-hmm.
to his top speed, yeah.
And coyotes, though... They run at over 40 miles an hour.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So roadrunners are not outrunning coyotes.
Well, are we incorporating agility into here?
Well, so that's kind of the thing, right? But coyotes do hunt roadrunners. That's accurate. But instead of outrunning, the roadrunner has to be agile and it has to be clever once again, right? And I guess this counts as being clever. It's more so biology, but it's clever biology. Where roadrunners have what I believe is called zygodactyl feet.
Okay.
Meaning that unlike most birds, where their toes or talons are generally all pointing in one direction, think of like a duck, right? They have all their toes pointing forward. Sometimes they'll have one pointing backwards if they need to like land on a perch. Mm-hmm. But roadrunners have 4 talons, 2 of them face forward and 2 of them face backwards. So it makes like an X, kind of a symmetrical X. And this helps them avoid predators like coyotes, because if you're just looking at roadrunner footprints, it's impossible to tell which direction they were heading because they look the same forward and backward.
Oh,
So
that's cool. Yeah.
hard to track down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So lastly, in our cartoon to reality comparison, I'd like to address the anvils that cartoon roadrunners will sometimes drop on Wile E. Coyote's head. A typical roadrunner weighs about half a pound, give or take, and a typical anvil weighs about 100 to 500 pounds. So
pretty big discrepancy there.
Big discrepancy. I couldn't find any data specifically saying yes or no, but I am assuming that a roadrunner cannot, in fact, pick up an anvil.
Yeah, I mean, there have been no rigorous case studies, no blind controlled trials, so or randomized controlled trials, so we can't say for sure, but I think we can infer.
Yeah, but I mean, this, again, I think a couple episodes I gave linguistics students a great thesis project to work on. In this case, I'm giving ornithology students a great thesis case to work on. Figure out if a roadrunner can pick up an anvil or not. But so now that we've unpacked the truth about our friends, the greater roadrunners, do you think the cartoon is evil for lying to the impressionable youth?
It's a good question. I actually think, broader point, television is evil in general.
Wow.
It's corroding the minds of our youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting point.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
No, I feel like it's fine. I don't know. I think not much harm is done by the TV show. What do you think?
Well, so I'll say this, and how I feel about this is how I feel about a lot of people complaining about quote unquote plot holes, or people saying like, this is so unrealistic, like it would never happen. But like, yeah, that's kind of what makes a story worth sharing, right? because unexpected things happen. Like, I don't know, maybe it's uncommon for a roadrunner to come out on top against a coyote time and time again, but that's what makes this specific roadrunner so special. And that's why that story is told, right?
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about it on the podcast right now.
Exactly. And I don't know, it's unrealistic that a random Philly man could be chosen out of a phone book to fight the #1 heavyweight boxer in the world and go the distance. But that's what makes Rocky a story worth telling. It's not a plot hole. It's just like unrealistic. It's unexpected. And that's why we tell this story. That's kind of the whole thing with storytelling.
It's kind of the whole point. So all you Roadrunner haters,
yeah,
chillax.
Chillax.
Like take a breather.
Movies don't need to be completely realistic as long as the decisions make sense to the characters and are thematically appropriate or just like generally entertaining. Anyway, that's my roundabout way of creating an entire podcast episode to talk about my opinion on how people talk about plot holes.
Yeah, this guy was a film major, if you couldn't tell. Very pretentious with his movie choices.
Yeah, no, it's true. But Looney Tunes, they're good in my book, right? I'm proud of that Roadrunner.
You think Tweety's actually got a head that big? What is Tweety supposed to be?
I think maybe a canary.
Oh, yeah, definitely canary.
Right?
Like, yeah, yellow.
Yeah. All right, so I'd like to end this main topic with a new segment. A segment I'm calling the worst type 5 in the history of stand-up comedy. Ready?
Sure.
Why did the Roadrunner cross the road?
To eat a lizard.
It didn't. You're looking at the footprints the wrong way.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got me there.
That was it.
That was the whole thing.
Yep.
Nice.
What do you think of my stand-up routine?
I think it was good. Your question led me down a certain path of thinking, and then you subverted it in a very clever way.
Yeah.
I think 4 Roadrunners out of 5 for me.
Nice. All right. Anyway, that's the Roadrunner for you. It's a bird that I really hoped that I saw when I lived in Colorado. I never saw it. It can come into southern Colorado, but I was in northern Colorado. But a bird that I'd really like to see. And I think, we've been talking a lot about the birds that we see, which makes sense because we see them. But wanted to give a shout out to our Southwest viewers, if there are any of you. Roadrunners are pretty cool. I'd like to see one.
Yeah, definitely like to head out there, see all the cool birds you guys got at some point. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that great main topic. We've kept the people waiting for a couple weeks now.
We have
with the closing call. So
yep.
we'll do the closing call. I think we're tied.
Probably 3-3, 3-3-1.
3-3-1.
Yep.
1 being Rochelle. And yeah, let's get into it. I'll give you a call first.
Sure.
All right, I'll give you a slightly different one.
Okay, that sounded like a lawnmower.
You're right. No. All right, what are you thinking?
Okay, well, it sounds pretty aggressive. It's not really pretty. It doesn't sound like something that I would expect out of like a songbird necessarily. So it's leading me to kind of blue jay-esque in a way. They sort of scream like that. So
okay.
Maybe I'm thinking corvids. Maybe I'm thinking some sort of bird of prey. Maybe I'm thinking something like a shrike. What does a shrike sound like? I don't know. But I don't think it's a sparrow. I don't think it's a warbler. I don't think it's a duck necessarily. Maybe it's a shorebird. Those guys have lots of strange sounds. I'm definitely going to get this one wrong, I think. But I'm going to give it my best shot. I know it's not a roadrunner.
It's not a roadrunner. It's kind of a tough one, I will say. I think deep down you can get it, but it may be a tougher one.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with, since I was on the sort of corvid blue jay track, I'm just going to say a Steller's jay. Not
a Steller's jay. It's the Forster's tern.
Oh, man.
So, Forster's tern, more of like a aquatic type bird.
Right.
Or like kind of, how do I describe a tern?
It's kind of right in between a seagull and a sandpiper. in the sense that their wings and tail are kind of shaped like a sandpiper when they fly. They fly in similar ways, but they behave a lot like seagulls.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, an aquatic bird. Cool.
Okay, well, we heard that bird so many times yesterday.
We did. We saw a lot of Forster's
There's
terns.
so many Forsters. They're cool. I like them a lot.
They were really cool. There was one Forster's tern that was just hovering really, really nicely for us.
Yeah, for like 3 minutes straight, just like right in front of us.
And neither of us could get a good video of it.
Yeah.
It was too windy, and
It was really windy.
But it was cool.
All right. Well, that's a bad miss by me. That's one I should have gotten. But what else is new? I'll play a song for you now.
All right. All right. Small bird.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a long melodious call. I'm torn between like a finch and a warbler. If it's a yellow-throated warbler and I don't pick it, I would be upset. But we heard it a lot yesterday. I don't think it's a yellow-throated warbler. Could be the elusive seaside sparrow.
Oh. How would you know? You've never seen it.
That we haven't seen it. Yeah. We to be clear, we haven't seen it.
I saw it.
You didn't see it. I'm leaning away from a warbler. I don't know if it sounds exactly like warbler. In between a finch and a sparrow now. I'll go with the seaside sparrow.
Keish, I have some bad news for you. It's the yellow-throated warbler.
Is it really?
Yep.
Why did it sound so different in real life, though?
I don't know. I was trying to get the call that sounded the most similar to the one we heard yesterday, but I couldn't quite get it.
See, this just goes to show you, it really takes some time to like internalize the calls, because like, yeah, I don't know. That's just a flop on my part. We heard it so much yesterday. We got it in our life list yesterday.
A double flop.
I swear it didn't sound like that though. Hey,
I know,
but
it's
the first time we heard it. To be fair,
it was the first time we heard it, and yeah, we I think what we did was we heard the call, we saw it, and then we were like, okay, we can recognize that pattern each time it played then. But I didn't think of like a mnemonic device. I didn't think about what the call actually was. So then when we stopped seeing it and it wasn't constantly being sung, it like left my brain.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think maybe we heard a different type of call. Maybe we heard a different type of song than what we heard on Merlin just now. All right,
Tough showing by us.
Yeah, not our hottest moment ever, but still 3-3-1.
Yeah.
Going into we're coming up to the end of the season.
Yeah, we're on episode 9. Last season we did 12 episodes. Probably end up doing the same this season.
Something similar, yeah.
So get your Who topics in quick.
Yeah, unless you have to wait till season 3, which is who knows when that's going to happen.
Who knows when.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Send us your Who topics at birdsarereal.pod@gmail.com. Check us out on Instagram, birdsarerealpod.
Let me know if I have a career in stand-up comedy, Roadrunner-based stand-up comedy specifically.
It's a good niche for you.
Yeah. No one else is doing that.
No one else is doing it, like especially not like you are.
No, you think John Mulaney's doing that? Come on. Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, give us 5 stars. I feel like we haven't asked you to rate us in a while. Give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on.
Yeah, we do have an illustrious 5-star rating right now, but hasn't gone up in a minute. So yeah, hit us up with that. Especially if you're a new listener, give us a rating.
Yep. And I'll leave you all with this. Meep meep.
Meep meep.